everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 703. Today we're going to talk about My City from Cosmos, designed by Dr. Reiner Knizia. And this is a 2 to 4 player polyomino tile Tetris style game, but it's also a legacy game. So what that means is you're going to have 8 of these envelopes, which I'll show you a little bit closely, but not all of it because I don't want to spoil it for you. But you've got 8 of these. Each of these has like 3 games in it. So you've got 24 games that you're going to play on these boards. Now these boards are double-sided. This is the non-spoilery side of the board. So this, if you don't want to play the legacy game, or when you get done with the legacy game, you can keep playing on this side of the board. But I'm going to show you very quickly another side of the board, which was sort of modified for no reason. I'll kind of get to that in the review part of it, but basically we played it with 3 players all the way through, and this is the 4th player board. So let's jump down, and I'm going to show you how to play the kind of the everlasting or the infinite game, or whatever you want to call it, the game that is not the legacy side. That will give you kind of the gist of the overall game, and then the legacy side I'll kind of talk a little bit more about in the review portion without trying to spoil as much as I can. I won't spoil anything, but not to scare you, but just there's some stuff you can spoil, but I'll give you kind of the general gist of it. So let's jump down to the table and then we'll come back and tell you what I think. Okay, so here's basically what one player will get in the game. So each player is going to get their own board. Again, this is the non-spoilery eternal side of the game. So once you're done with the game, or at any point, you can just play this game over and over and over again, and there's no legacy component to this side. And then players will get an identical set of tiles, and each of these tile sets has like a little animal icon on the back, so that's how you can know. But everybody will have the exact same set of colored tiles off to the side. Now this is not all of them, because I've taken out some of the tiles that you may or may not have to start the game, or that may or may not get modified during the course of the game. So this is a subset of the tiles that you get. And speaking of the legacy side of it, you've got these 8 envelopes here, and you can see each envelope has 3 games in it. So you're going to play 24 games of the legacy game, as well as however many you want of, this eternal game. Now this eternal game, I would say the rules say one thing, I've heard others. This is about 7 games into it, so a little bit into chapter 2 or 3. So some of this stuff, you could be kind of like a spoiler, I guess, because some of these things aren't in at the very, very beginning. But I will say that the first chapter of stuff here, the new land, is super simple. So it's, I would say, almost too simple, but I'll leave that part for the review. And so this is a few games into it. But this is kind of the general gist, and there'll just be lots of twists and turns on this overall thing. So what the gameplay is very simple. Each game is going to take you about 20-30 minutes. So you're going to have this one deck of cards in the middle of the table. Everybody's got their board and their pieces, and you flip over a card. Now this is going to tell you, in this case, to play the zigzag church here. You can see his church has got a little book there. So you have to take and place this. And your first piece always has to be flush or adjacent to the river. So I might put it here, I could put it like right there, like so. You can never put it across the river. You can put it like this. So let's just do it like that. That's kind of seems like that's an okay spot. Although, just a little strategy tip here, I will now never be able to place anything in this single spot because there's no single size buildings. They're all at least 2 sort of squares long. Then you flip over, and everybody does that, and you kind of do it simultaneously. And then the next one, we're going to do this blue T here. So we're going to say, okay, so now instead of being adjacent to the river, it has to be adjacent to an existing building here. So maybe we'll put it here, but we don't want to do that because then we'll be covering up the trees. You don't want to cover up the trees. What we do want to cover up are the rocks, because the rocks will give you negative points at the end, and the trees will give you positive points. You'll notice here that you have a cube here that starts up here in the middle. This is at the 10-point marker, because you can actually lose points during the game, and you might lose points during the scoring at the end of the game as well. So maybe we'll put that there. Then we'll flip another card over here. Let's say it's the red L, just for argument's sake there. So we'll take the red L, and then maybe we'll put this one. This is a good spot right here, like so. But this is not necessarily great because you want to actually surround this well. So the well is only going to score for you if you surround it totally with buildings. And you can see, remember I said there's no single space buildings, and you can't put buildings in this particular version of the game in the wood spaces, or if we zoom out here, in any of the mountain spaces. Only in these squared off spaces here with either the pasture, the green fields, the trees, or the rocks. And again, you don't want to actually cover the trees. And here maybe we get a red one like this, and so we're going to try to be careful, don't cover up the trees. And then you might get this card here. So this one, what it tells you is to deal out the next card, and then each player is then going to not place that. You're just going to turn that face down, and that'll be off to the side. So that will be a building that doesn't actually get placed in that game. And then maybe the next card here is this L, this yellow L. So this is actually adjacent to an existing building, even though there's a river here. So the river's not going to block any adjacency. Again, you just can't go over the river with a single building. And you're just going to keep playing and playing until you either decide to pass on a turn. So if you, let's say we dealt out this funky one and we really didn't have a good spot for it. So you can pass and turn that over, and then you actually will lose a point in the game. And you could keep doing that, keep losing points, kind of waiting for that final building. Maybe you're trying to find that little place to squeeze that one in to get that in, and that will kind of lock all your scoring in together. But you don't want to pass too much because you're giving up points, obviously. And then at some point, you're either going to go through the whole deck of cards, or you're just going to say, I pass, I'm just out. You won't lose any points if you pass and you're out for the rest of the round. You just say, I'm done, and then that's it. And so you won't play any more of that round. Usually there's maybe 2, 3 couple turns after that, and everybody's really going to wind it up, or you're going to be near the bottom of the deck anyway. So then you're going to wind it up, and then you're going to total up the points. You're going to have any points that you have left over that you've not lost from passing on turns. Then you're going to score a few different things. Again, any visible rocks, so in this case there's 2 rocks visible in that space, that's going to give you -1 point each, so you're going to lose 2 points for those rocks, for example. And then any places with trees, you're going to get 2 points, 1 for each tree, etc. So the score is going to kind of go up or down based on the trees and the rocks. Each empty light green space is going to be worth -1 point as well, so you want to try to cover up as much as you can. If you surround the well, doesn't matter the types of buildings, you're going to get 4 points. The first player to cover up the 2 gold mines, to basically make a chain of buildings from the 2 gold mines, is going to get 3 points. You can just get that right immediately as you're building, so nobody else can get it for the rest of the game. And then there's 2 final ways to score. And the first thing you're going to score are the churches. So you have a variety of churches, and you can see these all have a point value on them here. So this has a 3 points right there. And so this is going to go right there. And if you have buildings touching in each of the 3 colors, so yellow, red, and blue, at least one of each of those colors is touching and flush along the edge, that church will score. If we didn't have, like, say, a yellow touching it or so on, then it wouldn't score. So you may have multiple churches out there. And the last thing you're going to score is your largest contiguous group of each color. So in this case, we've got 1, 2, 3 yellows, so we'd get 3 points for the yellow, 1, 2, 3 reds, 3 points for that. Then we'll look at, oh, we've got 2 groups blue here, this one's only 1, this is size 2, so we'll score 2 points for that. So you just add up all those points, and then you will have the winner of the game. If there's a tie, whoever has the least empty spaces starting at the top row, so we'll look at our top row and say who has the least empty spaces, whoever has the least is the winner. If there's a tie there, you just keep working your way down, and that's it. And like I said, this is kind of like just a few games into the Legacy game is about what you're looking at here. Okay, so that is my city. So before I kind of delve into some of the Legacy aspects of the game, let's go through my 3 pillars of review. First would be play time, play count as the first 2 pillars. Like I mentioned during the walkthrough, your play time for an individual game is going to be about 20 to 30 minutes. And what we ended up doing was playing basically a chapter an evening, right? So you play about an hour and a half or so going over the 3 chapters, kind of reading the rules as you unlocked the different envelopes and everything. I should say, I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning, was we played through the whole thing, so I can speak to that. And so yeah, it's about an hour and a half to go through a chapter. So you go through 3 games, and then that seems like a decent stopping point. Although one of the nights that we did it, we actually did 2 chapters worth because we were having so much fun. And we played this actually 2 players to start in the first chapter, and then my dad actually jumped in on the next one, and then so we played 3 players all the way out. And so what I was actually doing, just as a little side note, is I wasn't sure what would happen at the end. And so I actually, as the boards change and things and the different player pieces sort of morph over the course of the Legacy game, I was sort of just adjusting this 4th player's pieces and board, you know, thinking maybe it would be useful at the end, and knowing that we weren't going to get a 4th player in. And if we did, then the board would be adjusted as you went. Because it's the decision-making process on like how you adjust the board and stuff isn't super rocket science. So you can, as each other kind of, we made our little adjustments, like, oh, I see what you did there. So I can say, oh, well, this guy would probably do this, you know, or whatever. So we played it 3-player all the way through. So I have, though, played it 2-player and 3-player. And it don't really make that much difference, the player count, because it's simultaneously done. Everybody draws the same card. Everybody has their own kind of individual sort of idea of how to space everything out. There is some kind of race aspect to certain points of the game. So when I showed you in the walkthrough, that kind of gold mine aspect, there's other parts of that. So you do want to keep an eye on what other players are doing, because the first one to get there will get it. And the game does introduce other elements kind of like that, but stretched over multiple games, if that makes any sense. And so there is some watching that you do, but the game kind of slowly evolves you into that. The first couple of games are super simple, even simpler than what I showed you, and anybody really could pick it up, I think. And then you kind of are in your own little space, your own little world, and that's kind of nice, because then everybody can kind of learn sort of the layout of the land, and start to learn like which pieces are good to put where, and sort of future looking kind of thing. So the game will kind of spoon feed that to you a little bit, or at least give you the opportunity to kind of adjust and kind of consume those ideas, and then gradually add a little bit more complexity. So that was cool. So that's kind of the play time, the player count pillars. The third one, which is what is this game like? Well, I mean, it's like any polyomino game, like oh heck, I'm having a brain fart. Patchwork. It's kind of like Patchwork, or any of those kind of games, or Feast of Odin, but not like all the complexity of Feast of Odin, just the polyomino Tetris style of it. And a lot of those games. So it's kind of like that, obviously. And then it's got the legacy aspect. So you could compare this to Pandemic Legacy or Risk Legacy. Although probably the main game that I would compare this to, I haven't actually played, and that would be Charterstone from Stonemaier Games, because I think that's a little bit more in the same weight, complexity ballpark, although I've not played it. So I have tried the app. I didn't really, for some reason, care for the app. I should probably give it another shot, but the app, for some reason, I just thought it was super... It was fun. It was like maybe too simple. And this kind of thing, just to kind of sidetrack us just a second, this might start out too simple for a lot of gamer types. But it was perfect, because I only played this with my family, and it was absolutely perfect. And it was great because I wanted to try to play a legacy game with them, but we don't really do co-ops. They don't really like co-ops. Don't ask me. And then some of the other legacy style games are a little bit more complex than I think they would like. And I've brought the idea of it up to them, and they were sort of reticent at first. This was a couple of years ago. So I kind of put it aside. But so I'll get into a side thing here. I'm having difficulty with this part, but so because of this lockdown stuff, I hadn't really seen them in a while. And this was back in June. And so we had been playing Glenmore 2 and stuff like that. And folks that watch my videos know that they like Steam, so it's not like they don't like complex games or anything. But so this was actually really good, because I think it was kind of enough of a break from playing new games, and it was sort of like we were kind of slowly visiting each other as the lockdowns and things sort of loosened up around June, at least where I live. And so this was just something I threw in there, and I've been excited to play it, and I think I'd had it for a little while. I might have got it right as lockdown started. And I kind of knew it would be too simple for my game group, probably, with it just a guess. Although some of them have picked it up as I've been sort of talking to them through our Discord chat, and they had seemed to be enjoying it, I think. I haven't really touched base, but so this was perfect, because they were just like up for whatever. And then we tried it, and they were like, oh, this is really cool. Like, it was just really cool to see, because even though they play some of the games with me, they're not really like gamers, you know what I mean? Like, they're just not. And they like don't have BGG accounts, you know what I mean? So whatever that means. But so it was really cool to see them go, holy cow, and just see the revelation of what a legacy game is from that type of person, that isn't really like hardcore into it, doesn't have a YouTube channel or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so to see them just go, oh wow, this is really cool that somebody would come up with that. And just that, that kind of thing, if you're watching my channel a lot, or you would call yourself a gamer, those like little revelatory moments of like when the light bulb goes off, you're like, I can't believe somebody thought of that. Like, how clever and how simple, but how really neat. And to see that kind of happen, I was really glad that my family was able to see that, because I had those similar things with Pandemic Legacy. If you go back and watch that review, season 1 or season 2, Blackstone Fortress, and just any kind of games. When I sometimes get excited about a game and I'm like, oh, this is just lighting my, all the neon lights are going off. Just to kind of see that happen here and just go, oh wow, it's really cool. This is really neat. And I'm really sad that it's over and all this kind of stuff, the last time we played. So that was cool. It really just kind of touched me in a lot of ways, because I really think this is great, because a family style legacy game is a neat kind of like journey that you can kind of go on. This isn't really geared towards, a hardcore gamer. Because if I just take a step back, although it was me, as I would say, as a hardcore gamer, I really enjoyed the saga anyway. Personally, I couldn't speak for other gamer whatevers, but I could have played this with anybody. And yeah, it's a little bit on the simple side, but it was still interesting. Like, each decision card flip was interesting, like it was. After you kind of played a couple times, the first couple are like really simple. It's like, I'm not really doing anything. But then you go like, oh, I get this. I see how it's twisting things, because each little rule twist just has that little nudge left or right to get you to kind of reevaluate the function of pieces and how you want to fit things together. Because there is definitely tactics and, flip this and I'm going to do this, but you still go, okay, I know these other ones are left in the deck. I know they're there. So I've got a plan for that, because I know I'm probably going to see them. The chances are that you're going to see just about every shape come out. Not 100% certain, but it's because, just you most of the time don't make it all the way through the deck, and you have that one card that sort of cancels one out. So it's not a guarantee, but you got to just kind of plan for those probabilities. So just kind of rolling it back to the main point was, it was really cool to see. This is all we played since, I think we played Glenmore 2 once after coming back from lockdown, and but then this is it. So you're looking at basically 7 weeks of this, and we don't play every week or anything. It's usually once a month or twice a month maybe, yeah, so you're looking at like basically the last half of 2020 here with the family, and I can't express enough like how cool and great this is to play, because that first one, and I think it's important that first one is simple because of this reason. Because if it was too complex, then you could get kids to play this and they would get it, and then it just really slowly unravels it over 24 games really, and then it's done. So the last thing I'll kind of leave you with is, so I was maintaining that fourth board, just thinking like, well, maybe at the end, these boards will morph into something, and then that will be reusable. And that will be the reusable piece. We'll have custom boards and we can swap them around and stuff like that. That's not the case. So you can't do it. Like, you could, but you'd be really fudging it. And so it kind of is a little bit of a disappointment that it's done. The legacy part, the legacy side of the board and the pieces are done. You will have some other possible changes, kind of not really, for the Everlasting board. That's so minor that you're basically just playing what I showed you there, with like 2 really minor changes based on, because you have like a different set of pieces and stuff like that. But so that's a slight, very, very slight sort of nitpick. But they do give you the Everlasting side of the board. But once you've played through all 24 and you go back to the Everlasting side, it's like, oh, this time we're back to the baby game. So yeah, so it is kind of there. So, but it is 24 plays plus probably, I don't know. I've not played just the Everlasting side, because we've already played that basically in the Legacy game a couple of times. So I don't know. I'll probably bring it next time I go over there just to see. But I won't be that really jazzed to play it. So it's really, to me, 24 plays, and that's it. Maybe you could squeeze a couple out of that other side of it, just kind of for old time's sake or something, in like 6 months. But to me, it's 24 plays and it's done, and that's it. And I don't know that that's the end of the world, but I don't think it's not really good or bad, honestly. It's just kind of, oh well. But it was those 24 plays all the way through are really cool, and they really do some interesting things, and it's really very fun to kind of see the cleverness of the design sort of unravel itself for you over the course of 24 plays. So yeah, so this is definitely going in I think in a couple of weeks, probably from the time you're watching this video, I'll be doing a top 10, games of 2020. This is going to be in there 100%. Not going to be number 1, not going to be number 10, but it's going to be in there. It's going to be up there. So this is the highest recommendation for me because of just like what the game kind of means to me in a way, and it has something a little bit to do with kind of the situation of 2020 as well. But I think it's like perfect in a way. If you go back to look at my top 10 lunch games, I know this is a sidetrack, but my top 10 lunch games, my number 1 is Arboretum because it's not my favorite game out of that top 10 list, 100%. And I kind of explained a little bit there, but it's perfect. Like the design is perfect. And that's what this is. This is absolutely perfect all the way through. I mean, you can nitpick some other stuff, but it's because it does what it sets out to do, and it does it well, and I think it's going to be pure joy for a family that picks this up. So there you go. Take a look at it. Thanks.